Pulisic dentro, Rafa. Gol! Ebram! Gol! È l'azione più bella del mondo! È l'azione più bella!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host today, Anthony Torgard, joined by Isaac Moeller.
Yeah, nice to be back. As always, seems to be an emergency solution, but that's fine as well. It works.
You should change your name from head of the C team to head of emergency services. Ollie is sick right now. He's chest infection or something like that. I don't know.
Something like that.
He's not doing too hot, so wish him well. Madison is out of town on a business trip, and obviously, as you guys can tell from the timing of this podcast, it's late because I had some last-second stuff that came up as well, and then, of course, with yesterday being deadline day, we pushed it. You all know it was crazy. We'll talk about it soon. But, so that's why things are late, why we have a different cast, why I'm doing this. But, as always, first we want to plug our founding members from the Substack. I have the list this time. I get to read the names to make sure I do it all. Take a sip of my drink here. We're not sponsored, but I won't tell you who it is, but it is a beverage. All right. Des Windsor McGlynn, Tito Mack, Moritz Pullman, Joey Goller, Kevin, MJ, Mats, Luke Villano, Raul Escobar, Rajat, Carl Fassi, Nasser, Merlin Fink. Fink? Yeah. Why did I think there was
Finke probably? Yeah.
Oh, we had the issue where we thought there was an L in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Derek Favretto, Heavenly 13, Mike Scholes, JT Fizio, Tariq, Marco Viela, Roberto Racinos, Ken, and Medi K. So that was my first time doing it, and now I feel for Ollie because that
we don't have the same pace as him. Yeah,
no, he does it so well.
Takes practice.
Yeah. Well, I guess the first thing we should dive in, because we do have a loaded schedule. Zagreb, get this over with, huh? Shitty game.
Yeah, I mean, it was dreadful, really. Just from start to finish, so poor. Even when we scored the goal, it never felt like we had a good game or even a chance to grab the result that we needed. So it was just complete deflation, in my opinion. It actually sucked big time the day after as well.
This was a tough one because obviously going into it, final game of the group stage, a win guarantees us top 8. Going into it, we thought a draw might be enough. In the end, it wasn't because Lyon won 6-1 or 7-1, something like that. Yeah. But essentially a must-win game to make it 6 consecutive wins in the group stage to end out the Champions League, which would have been a very fantastic start. We failed. 2-1 loss. And this is interesting. This is one of those games where the stats really prove how deceiving stats are. Because if you look at the momentum chart, we had the entire match outside of their 2 goals. And then if you look at the stats, we dominated on possession. Pretty close to equal XG, just slightly behind, but more shots on target, more passes, less fouls committed, more corners, block shots inside the box, touches inside the box, passes, own half passes, opposite touch passes, or opposite half passes, throw-ins, less offsides, less yellow cards. And yet we lost, mainly because of the one stat we didn't look better in, which was red cards. Musa, what was he thinking? 39 minutes in, yelling at the referee.
What can you even say about that? It's like we said in the chat as well. The first yellow card is just stupid as well. Trying to pull the player up who's down injured. I mean, he has no business doing that. I understand if it would have been late in the game and we're pushing for a winner or in that kind of situation, but this was 30 minutes in. Mm-hmm. He didn't need that frustration at all, and we saw, it boiled over as well with the challenge that got him sent off. But
and I'm just looking at it to see when he got the first yellow card, if it was before or after their goal, because their first goal was in the 19th minute. I know the red card was in the 39th, so it was in between there. But
good question.
The reality is there's no reason to pick up a player on the other team. You see it when it's the 85th minute and you're just saying, okay, your time wasting, let's go. It's 20th minute. It's not that big of a deal. Keep your cool, keep your head on, and we'll go and score a goal, which, to be fair, we did score one, and it was 1-1 at a moment after we sent off early in the second half. Christian Pulisic scores in the 53rd minute. It was a fantastic goal. I didn't even
goal.
think it went in at first, to be honest. It was very odd. It was a weird one. But his game overall was pretty poor as well. One of the things that I've put in the chat multiple times is anytime Steph and Ollie start talking shit, he scores.
That's the thing with Pulisic.
Do it.
Yeah. Every game he can be almost invisible in many games, and then all of a sudden he gets that one chance and he scores, or gets an assist or whatever, which is like
That's all he needs.
yeah, exactly. That's all he needs. At the same time, you could argue that we need to see more from him in the play, open play maybe, but we shouldn't complain when it certainly wasn't his fault that we lost.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as goal involvements go, I think he has the most out of any player on our team in the last 2 seasons, something like that, since his arrival.
Sounds about right.
I think it was like at 41, and I don't know if that's even accurate anymore, but definitely, I mean, he's been prolific, but yeah, it didn't. He wasn't that impactful outside of that goal. Obviously, Tomori had the assist on that, so good to see him come back. He played right back, which was odd. And then I'm trying to think. This is the goal? The first goal was the one where Gabia slips, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Easy. Yeah. Well, it was an easy ball to receive, really, and we just made a mess of it.
Yeah.
And what can you do about that? Like, that's just sets the tone for the entire game. You just see that and think, oh,
you immediately go behind off of a silly error that might not even be his fault. It could have just been the pitch, could have been the spikes, could have been whatever. He slipped. They score. Of course, they're going to score. It was like the Gerrard slip from whenever year that was,
2014 or something.
To add insult to injury, the red card 20 minutes later, and you just like, okay, we're down a player. We gave away a stupid, shitty goal, to quote your boy Simon Kier. We keep letting in these shitty goals, and it just felt like it was always out of reach. We got the goal back, and they immediately took the lead again. 7 minutes later. I don't remember anything about the goal, but I do remember his infamous tweet about if it's the bench, at least it's the Juve bench. You should try it sometime.
Oh yeah.
Well, now he's on the Zagreb bench, so it is what it is there. But yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot we should.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say I barely remember the second goal because it's just one of those games where the day after you just want to forget it and then move on.
Well, and after deadline day, I feel like we've lived an extra month in between these two games. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it feels like a long time ago. Yeah.
Let's just look at the team that started. Morata. Okay, that's the only guy who left the lineup. I thought there was more. I mean, but yeah,
But he was subbed off quite early as well, so then sent a signal
right at halftime. Yeah,
and I think that's when they said he got upset with the coach or something like that.
Makes sense.
Maybe something
been on edge. I mean, as you know from today's work, quotes came out from Zlatan that Benacer demanded being sold yesterday.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me at all.
It doesn't surprise me, but it's sad to see that all three of the people in the midfield that won us a Scudetto left, and one of them asked to be sold, one refused to renew, and one of them accepted obviously a lucrative offer. No, I don't think anyone holds it against Tonali, but it does make you think when you see guys like Teo Hernandez and Tomori turning down offers to go to stay here and be in this mess. But
yeah, exactly.
Regardless, just quickly, top and flop. I think flop's Musa.
There's no doubt. I mean, I said it in the ratings as well. Like Gabia, you can make a mistake, and that's understandable. But when you make that foul that he made and the first yellow card, as we said, that's not a mistake. That's just poor.
Because the red card for Musa, it was a foul that got called on him, but it wasn't egregious. He wasn't getting carded for it, right? It was just dissent that.
I'm not too sure. It looked like he might have been carded.
Maybe
anyway,
he was. Okay.
But he did have a poor reaction then as well. Like, it's just like, why be so upset? Like, it's a foul, and it's just crazy.
It's not worth it. And knowing the situation that we were going into, that, like, obviously having to play Tomori as a right back, having to play Musa as a winger, we're already low on bodies, and then
exactly
to do that, it's ridiculous. I'm not going to give a top, I guess, Pulisic, but he wasn't even that great. But that's all I got for that. Anything else before we move to the derby?
No, let's move on. It's gonna be more fun.
Yeah. Next
Or
Champions League game, Feyenoord. That'll be fun because of the Santiago Jimenez transfer, obviously. But
yeah.
we'll get to that when it happens. Next
Yeah.
game. All right. I just spit everywhere. I hope no one saw that. That was awful.
This was like a much better game. Like it's like night and day if you compare the two. Like we actually some people have said that we didn't really play to score that much against Inter, but at the same time we had the foundation that we didn't have against Zagreb. And we had the hunger, the mentality that we didn't have against them. So like all of the things we complained about midweek were fixed, basically, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
I would agree. I think this is the best back line we've had all season. Was this specific performance? Walker made his debut. I thought he was fantastic. Yeah, he gave away the ball when Jimenez should have passed it to Chukwueze. He turned around, gave it to Kyle Walker, gave it away, started the counter, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately led to the equalizer. But overall, I think he did very well. It shows the big difference between Emerson, Calabria, even Florenzi, who hasn't touched the field in over a season here. One thing I noticed was on set pieces, you immediately see Kyle Walker get over here, get there, do this, do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that shows leadership. That shows a guy who knows how to defend set pieces, something we've struggled with for a decade. I was really happy with Kyle Walker. I thought Tomori was massive, Pavlovic was massive, and I think Teo did much better than he has recently as well. And that's probably because of the arrival of Walker. He's thinking, oh no, I'm the best fullback. Now we might have the actual best fullback. Let's see what we could do. But that offside trap, I mean, that was a lot of people, and I know we kind of talked about it in the chat a little bit, but a lot of people were saying luck. That offside trap was not luck. That was timed to perfection every single time. I mean, they were yards offside.
I agree.
Yeah, that was so nice to see. I thought Mike came up big as well. Not much.
Yeah, he made a huge save before the goal.
Yeah,
which is at that point you thought he saved us a game, but yeah, of course. But it's like you said, Kyle Walker, I think really good. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about his pace in the last few weeks, and that doesn't really bother me as much. Like he has the physique to defend against strong players, and he has the experience. Like all of the things you said, how to direct his teammates and how to move in the box, all of those things count as well. So like the pace is one thing for me, but it's the defending that we've been struggling with the most.
Yeah. And I thought the pace was still mostly there. There was a time where I believe it was Bisek who was going down the wing, and there was someone else on him, and Kyle Walker comes from out of the frame of the camera and gets in front of him and essentially, guards off the ball. He does not maintain the ball, but he does catch up to Bisek, gets in front of him, showing that he still has some speed there. And then obviously Inter got the ball back. Not saying Kyle was perfect, but still overall very happy with him. Good debut, got a full 90. We don't have any options on the bench, so of course. But then I mean, yes, Inter definitely were unlucky to hit the post 3 times. Ultimately, that is just a shot off target, just a close one. So you could say it's unlucky, or you could say it was just badly done. When we hit the post, we don't say we were unlucky. We say we suck. So okay to say that they did it as well. Yeah. Benacer yoinked at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in hindsight, but at the same time, I don't think he was that good.
I don't either.
I mean, people might point to the goal and say he was involved in a build-up, but even then he was quite slow on the ball and only just managed to get the pass away before the defense caught up with him. So I think the passing wasn't there from him at all that game. All of the balls over the top were just too high, so the defenders were always able to adjust. And yeah, it wasn't a good game from him. So I think it's not necessarily to do with his move, but it might be.
But
maybe they learned from the Emerson factor.
Well, they look at Morata getting pulled off at halftime, sold argument with Conceição. Calabria getting pulled off, I don't know when, but during his last game, sold, fight with Conceição. Benacer pulled off at halftime, supposedly a fight with Conceição, sold. So, I mean, it does seem like whether you love him or hate him, Conceição is the type of guy that says you're either going to do what I say or you're gone.
Yeah.
And it seems like a fight with him is the end of it, which is scary, kind of, but also might be good for this group of guys. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to do it with. I do think it's not that serious. Like, if anything, it's more the players taking it too personal and being like, I can't deal with this. I'm going to leave. I have offers. I almost left before. Let's just do it now, basically.
Yeah. I mean, he's pulled Teo and Leao off at halftime as well, and they still support him vocally. So
they don't whine at all.
Yeah, and that's a big difference because you'd expect them to whine over the others. But back to the game, Jimenez replaced Benacer. Formation change at that point. I thought Jimenez was one of the best on the pitch.
Really
I don't
good.
know if you felt that, but
no, I agree.
He was everywhere. He did everything right except for that final pass, which, I mean, that goes to Conceição's post-match interview where he said, outside of some individual mistakes by some of the younger players, Camarda took a crazy long shot that hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
I screamed. I thought it went in. There were options for him as well. So, I don't think it's bad to call those mistakes out and say, hey, yes, you're young, but you got to do better. You're playing the biggest game of the year, a derby, when we need the points in the league. You got to do better. You got to make the right decisions. You're being called up to the first team. You're going to be treated like an adult. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
It makes full sense.
And then what else happened in this derby here? Terracciano came on late, same time Camarda, and that was for...
He made a mistake.
Terracciano is a mistake. He never should have been here.
I mean, he has the presence and physique, but it was Walker that hit the pass to him, and he lost it in midfield. So obviously it wasn't a good appearance. Yeah. He lost it before Inter won it. So but I mean, I've said it before as well. Like, we saw it this game. Compare like the subs we brought on versus Inter. It's just like night and day. Of course, they're going to be able to push a lot in the final minutes when you have our subs versus theirs. Like, it's a huge difference in my opinion.
Yeah, looking at who they brought on, Jan Bisek, Carlos Augusto, Peter Zielinski, Fratesi, and the guy they signed that morning, Nikola Zawelski, who obviously got the assist.
Yeah.
Had a little conspiracy theory, tried to see if I could get us a forfeit win here. I can't. Inter were clean on this one, but you had to register a player 12 hours before kickoff. They registered him 12 and a half hours. So literally with 30 minutes to spare, they registered that. It just threw me off because it happened right before midnight because our kickoff was at noon. And so all the tweets came out like 6 hours later in the morning because everyone was asleep when it happened. So I was like, wait a minute, that's suspicious. No conspiracy there, unfortunately. No scandal that I could get Inter on this time, but I'm always looking the books and I'll see what I can find.
Always got to try find something.
Yeah. I liked how we ended it, though. I know, obviously, that's when we conceded, but I did like that we threw on Gabia. Obviously, we had Jimenez and Terracciano already on at this point, who weren't playing as defenders, but can be fullbacks. If you consider them fullbacks in there, you're looking at 7 defenders on to close out the game, and somehow that's when we concede. So kind of funny there, but
usually how it goes in it.
Yeah,
when you bring on the
none
defenders.
of the defenders' fault,
No, it was Chukwueze.
More than anyone, I blame Chukwueze, right? I think, yes, you could say that the giveaway and the pass that led up to it, but ultimately, you go back, you rewatch that goal. Everyone is playing man coverage.
Man.
And Chukwueze is at the top of the box. His man is the furthest forward guy. That's obviously onside still, furthest forward, and gets the ball, creates the pass, goal. De Vrij. Devastating. It hurt. When you drop points with seconds to go, and it was literally seconds in a game this big, that could have been the 3rd consecutive. That was rough. That really hurt.
Yeah,
I would still consider this a point gained just because I went into the game expecting a loss. I think we all predicted it on the podcast. You didn't. You predicted a 1-1.
I had 1-1.
You did. You got it.
That's nice. But it's like you said, the way most of the fans were like, we're going to get trashed. they're going to score 5 goals or a bunch of those shouts. But yeah, it still hurts because considering how the game panned out, as you say, last minutes almost saw it out. But at the same time, it's like I said to Ollie after the game, and he said to me as well, like, strangely enough, you don't feel that deflated because you know it's like, okay, they hit the post 3 times, it was coming, and you were almost waiting for it to happen. But
yeah, it
of course it
was
sucks.
such a perfect defensive performance in the sense that we were able to keep everything out, obviously, until the end. And yet, I don't know how to phrase it, like what words I'm looking for here, but because you're right, Inter were attacking nonstop.
Yeah.
But I never felt like it was going in. There were a few close calls. I mean, they hit the post 3 times. They probably should have scored, but whatever. I felt like we had opportunities as well. The goal that we scored was crazy. It was a beautiful goal. Reinders, and I don't know what the XG on it was, but it was very low. I think we finished the game with like 0.6, so it had to be, I mean, that was an incredible goal. Right before halftime, or a little earlier. It was like,
it was right before. Right before,
minute,
And he did have a chance in the second half as well when Pulisic got some space and then managed to find him in the edge of the box. But I mean, we had a few half chances, I guess, in addition to the goal, of course. But when they push forward like that, you just feel like it's coming. Unfortunately, like that. But maybe that's just because we've lost so many derbies in the past that you're damaged. But
that's kind of my thought too. We're used to conceding against Inter. I don't know the last time we kept a clean sheet against them. But I like the way this was handled. I think Conceição had the right approach. We played a very structured game for the first half. We got the go-ahead goal. And look, when you go ahead against the team who is competing for the title, your direct rivals, your city rivals, who you've beaten twice already in a year, who are coming off of 6 consecutive wins against you prior to those 2 losses, you know that this is a team that's going to push forward. You know that they're going to attack. They're going to bring on extra firepower. And we countered that immediately in the second half. Brought on a fullback who could play in the midfield, who could play in the wing, kind of do a bit of everything, who's going to be an engine, who isn't afraid to get carded if necessary, in Jimenez, obviously. And then later on, you brought on Terracciano, who isn't a great player. I've never been the biggest fan of him. But again, a guy who could play in the midfield, who could play as a fullback, who could play as a defender, will put in a shift for you. And then you bring on Camarda because you want some fresh legs in attack just in case you get that counter, which, to his credit, he had the opportunity. He took the shot. It missed. I think he should have passed it, but you brought on the right guy there. Then you bring on Gabia to get an additional defender in there who, again, fresh legs because Inter keeps bringing on fresh players who are being instructed to push fast, push hard. So you bring on another defender to really lock down that back line again. You're doing less of an offside trap because the longer that goes on, the riskier it gets. So now you're setting in deeper. You're allowing a bit more pressure, but you're locking in, and everything looked great. You brought on Chukwueze roughly the same minute as Gabi. I think it was in the same window.
I think it was,
And you bring him on for Pulisic. Gabia came on for Leao. Now, if you were to tell me that you took off Pulisic and Leao in a derby, I'd say that's crazy. But given that this was 4 minutes to full time, that we were up 1-0, that they were going to be pushing nonstop,
makes sense.
A part of me says, it makes sense. The other part of me says you keep a guy like Leao on for the full 90 because you know they're going to push and he'll be open. And if we counter, it's done. And I think that could have won us the game because we did have 2 of those counters after this. It wasn't meant to be. I think Chukwueze was the wrong call. I don't think he offers anything going back, and he offers less going forward. He could dribble a bit, but unfortunately, he dribbles himself into trouble a lot more than Pulisic does. And just going to how the goal was conceded, I don't think Pulisic would have left him that open. I think Zawelski would have been covered if Pulisic was on. If Leao was on, I don't think it would have made a difference if it was Chukwueze Leao. But I think Chukwueze's was more at risk there. He was never really looking for the exit door this window until the last minute. Fulham came in, and then they switched to a free agent signing. I think it was honestly because they ran out of time, not
Yeah.
because Chukwueze didn't want it or we
No,
didn't want
it's always a mess when you sign from England and vice versa. It takes a long time.
So I think that's another sign, and I think Conceição's he's had the time to build what he wants, the play style he wants, and he knows what players aren't going to work with him, and bring in the players he wants. And now going forward, I think we're going to have a good run. But
Yeah,
I don't know what else to say on the game. Go for it.
Speaking of players he wants, this game we saw what Tomori is about on a good day. Like we have always said that he's too aggressive, or in the last year or so that he's been too aggressive, rash in challenges and whatever. But this game he was perfect in terms of aggression, and that enabled him to win back the ball, but also fall back when needed.
Yeah.
And I think, he certainly proved me wrong in a way, because I've been quite critical of him in the last few months, especially with like Gabi and Chao playing well.
Yeah.
But this was just
rightly
amazing
so.
from him. Yeah.
I think the last few games from Tomori, actually since Conceição's come in, I think Tomori's been really good.
Yeah,
but when
pretty
he
much.
was benched under Fonseca, I don't think anyone was arguing. I think it made sense.
Yeah,
I think he was
it
doing
did.
more.
It did.
I do want to highlight one moment that I'm seeing a lot of talks about on Twitter, the penalty shout for Inter. You see Pavlovic go in. He's kind of behind. Was it Dumfries? I can't remember.
Thuram.
Thuram. Okay. Sorry to mix that up. He comes in behind Thuram, and then Teo slides in. Perfect slide tackle, gets the ball, cuts him off. Thuram goes over, tumbles. They're saying penalty. I'm saying is perfect tackle by Teo. I thought it was ridiculous that there was even penalty shouts. I get in the chat and I say, can you believe these guys are complaining about this penalty? And then all he says, I think it was. And he sends me the clip and he says, watch Pavlovic's legs. And Pavlovic 100% steps on his calf.
Yeah.
It probably should have been a penalty.
Well, I'd say probably yes. But then you look at what the referees said after the game. And apparently it's like it didn't change the dynamics of what happened. So in either case, Teo would have won that ball by making that tackle, even if Pavlovic did hit him. And I suppose it's also like a discussion of when can VAR actually step in? Is it obvious? Is it obvious that this affected the outcome of the situation, basically? So I think there's more nuance to it than Inter are trying to show with that one clip. But
yeah.
It's definitely. In isolation, it's a penalty, of course.
Yeah, and I like your explanation because I agree with that, and I've always said that I think we need more common sense in our rulings for all things. How much does it impact the play, including offside? The one thing that's the most objective of it, I think would be better if we had a bit more subjectivity. But with this one, you're right; it doesn't impact the play. My mind goes to if Thuram was our player in the situation, I probably would be saying, "Where's the penalty? This is ridiculous." So I understand the shouts for it. It doesn't impact it, and I'm glad that the referees are agreeing with that and they're taking that into consideration because it's something that is not as often as it should be. You see a lot of silly calls nowadays, at least against us in the last few years. Those are the ones that remember. So it's nice to see one go our way for once, and I don't think it's a dirty call. It's not like Pavlovic was trying to stomp on him. I think their legs just got tangled.
Exactly.
It's just going to happen when you're cutting past like that. So,
and it's like you said, that's a great example of like a challenge that you celebrate almost when it happens, and to have that call back on VAR afterwards is just like ruining the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Let's just leave it be.
Was there any other key moments of this match that you could remember?
Not really. I mean, the first half was quite quiet, I'd say, for the most part. Second half, a bit of the same, except for like the last 20 minutes or something when Inter started pushing again. But we also had some good moments. But overall, I think it was a tight game, a tight affair.
Yeah.
More than definitely more than most expected. And that's good in itself because Inter obviously have been in great form before this.
Yeah.
Before the game. So compared to our rodeo of like shit results, but
Comparing the stats of this game versus the stats of the Zagreb game, where I just said it looked like we were winning, this is the exact opposite. Inter had all the momentum outside of 2 moments, one of which was where we had the goal, and it was very, very small. And then another moment around the 75th minute, 74th minute. I don't know what that was. Maybe that was the Camarda shot or something.
Yeah.
But that was the only momentum that FOTMOB has given us. We had 38% possession. We only had 0.6 xg, which means that Reinders shot was even less.
Yeah.
They had 1.3. They beat us on total shots on target, big chances. They had less big chances missed. Or no, I'm sorry, they had more. They had 1. We had 0. More accurate passes, less fouls committed, more corners. They had higher XG from open play, blah, 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 hit woodwork, shots inside the boxes, every single passing
It was
stat.
a classic derby from the last few years. Inter dominating, Milan playing on the counterattacks,
But it
individual
didn't feel like
brilliance.
it.
Yeah,
I've always felt like we were in control of the match. We just weren't
sort of.
inviting
Yeah.
a lot more, And if you look at the ratings, all the players with green ratings, which is above 7.0, there's a lot. Let me do the counting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players with green ratings, and only 4 of them are Inter players. One of them being a goal scorer, which means he probably wasn't a green until he got that. So yeah, it's definitely something interesting to think about, because I don't think this is a game that story can be told by looking at a stat sheet, which is what I'm doing right now, because it
No,
just
yeah.
it's wrong. They're deceiving.
Yeah.
But
Two
overall,
completely different approaches as well from the managers,
yes,
the players,
exactly.
the teams. So
In my opinion, feel like we still got the better of them, even though they had the gut punch at the end. In my mind, I leave this game feeling like we got the better of them. I know it was only a draw, but we weren't expected to win. So
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, when you consider, like I said, the form, the squad depth, like the team, the starting 11, even like having Tammy Abraham up front, who,
mhm.
to his credit, won the ball back just before the goal, stole the ball from Shalanoglu, of
Yeah,
all people. So that was nice. But he's not really a good striker at the moment, and that
yeah,
clearly hurts us a lot moving, like when going forward. So
and
all
that's something
things
we didn't even
considered,
mention. Morata was already sold at this point. He'd
yeah,
already been
yeah,
announced by Galatasaray, so we didn't have our marquee signing of the summer to bring on. Not that he'd
our
done well.
experienced striker, yeah,
Yeah. And
leader.
then you look at who was on the bench. 2 goalkeepers. So I mean, you might as well say those aren't bench players there. Bartezaghi, so a youth player. Malik Chow, who has been injured, probably not even fully fit to come back in.
Exactly.
Kevin Zarulli, a youth player that also left yesterday. Luka Jovic, a striker who's been injured and we don't want
Out of
either.
form.
And Noah Okafor, who also left yesterday. And then, of course, the 5 that came on. It shows just how shallow our depth was for this game.
Yep.
And the fact that they had, the players that they brought on, all great players, while not touching Achirbi, Aslani, Darmian, Arnautovic, Mehdi Taremi, they had all these players on their bench.
That's
And
kind of crazy as well that they didn't bring on Taremi
mhm,
in that moment. Like they needed a goal, but that's good
they didn't bring
coaching,
on
I
a
guess.
single striker. Yeah. They just loaded the midfield. 4 extra midfielders, 1 extra defender. And yeah, I mean, it worked out perfectly for them.
Yeah.
Incredible. Top?
Ooh, who did I pick as top? I think I gave Tomori the man of the match, actually.
Ooh.
Simply because, okay, Reinders, he scored a goal, but he also missed the chance. No, he was great as well. They got the same rating, but I gave the man of the match to Tomori. Simply because, yeah, he was fantastic, I think.
Yeah. I give it to Tomori as well. Interesting, FOTMOB also gives him the highest Milan rating at 7.8. No, that's not true. Reinders had an 8.2, so I apologize.
Okay.
But yeah, I picked Tomori also. Reinders is bumped up because of the goal. So Reinders
Yeah.
was definitely my top. For flop, I'm torn between 2 players. I'll let you say yours first.
I'm trying to remember what I put, but if we can talk about the subs as well, I mean,
Yes.
it has to be Terracciano for me, or Chukwueze, of course. Chukwueze. I mean, that's the obvious choice, but if I didn't choose him, then it would be Terracciano.
Yeah, I was looking at Chukwueze as one because I do think ultimately it's his fault that we conceded. He did
Yeah.
only play 4 minutes. The other guy I was looking at was Benacer.
Oh, yeah.
Halftime and yoinked
Yeah.
real bad. But I don't think he cost us anything because obviously
No,
when he
exactly.
was taken off, we were winning. So
That was quite difficult as well when giving him the rating. Like he
mhm.
was involved in the goal at the end of the day. That was quite important. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
always like it's difficult, but yeah, out of the starting players, probably him. Yeah, because Moose as well. I guess he got a lot of stick in the first half, but in the second half he was
yeah. In the second half, I thought
composed.
it was great. Yeah,
Yeah, he
no,
was
maybe not
very
great. Good,
composed.
good. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see. Any final thoughts on Inter before we go to Roma?
No, I just agree with you that it's a point gained. Of obviously 2 points lost. We're not going to sit here as losers and say that it was a good result, but we need points for the standings. It's as
Yeah,
simple as that, and we got it. So
and it's a shame that Roma and Napoli drew as well because my thought
yeah,
was at least we're taking some points off Inter and they will lose that ability to equalize. And then of course Napoli had to drop too, so
yeah.
made no difference in the title race. But moving on, Copa Italia quarterfinals at home against AS Roma.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this one, to be honest. Sometimes it feels like the Coppa Italia just you forget it a bit, like in the midst of it all, like the league, Champions League, the draw as well now with playing Feyenoord, and yeah, it's gonna be it's an important game obviously because we've all said for many years now that we need to compete in the Coppa Italia much more than we have in the last few
Yeah,
years. Like it seems like we're always getting knocked out in like quarterfinals or at best the semifinals. But like we should be able to make it like to the final, really.
I
If
think
you
we
get a
have a good
good,
chance.
yeah,
I mean, obviously the teams we got to go through are tough, right? We win this game, we play either Inter in a two-legged game, um, or Lazio, which would be the preferred choice. But I'm
yeah,
after the previous derby, I feel confident with against Inter as well. But for
yeah,
Roma, you look at how it went down. So we had the last minute dropped points against Inter. The same day, 2 hours later, they played the role of Inter against Napoli and had the last second equalizer.
yeah.
So we're both coming off of draws against the first and second place team. I believe they're in seventh place or sixth place. They're right around us.
They
They're
are
ninth.
behind us.
They're ninth.
They're behind us for
So
sure.
yeah, ninth and first drew, and then eighth and second drew. I mean, it was the exact same game essentially.
Yeah,
So then I go and I say, okay, well, how did we do against them earlier in the season? Well, that was also a 1-1 draw. Dybala and Reinders had some early goals, and then it was kind of boring after that. But you look at the game that we played, we had Emerson starting, we had Gabia Chow, we had Teo in poor form, Terracciano starting midfield, Jimenez starting left wing, Chukwueze starting right wing, also came off injured, and Morata up top.
and Fonseca as the manager.
And Fonseca is the manager who got a red card.
Yeah, and sacked after the game. So
Yes, he did. The substitutions we brought on, Benacer, who's gone, Tammy Abraham, who's not going to start anymore, and Camarda, who probably won't come on either. So you look at this game and you're thinking it might as well be the first time we've met all season because it's going to be a totally different back line. 3 of
yeah,
the 4 players will be changed. I'm sure it'll be Teo, Kyle Walker, Tomori, and Pavlovic, right? The midfield duo of Fofana Terracciano likely to be Reinders and Fofana, I would assume. I don't think Bondo will start.
no,
Um, and then the wingers, you're going to have Liao and Pulisic, of course. And then you're going to have likely Joao Felix as the attacking mid.
Yeah.
and you're gonna have Santiago Jimenez as striker. It's a
Well,
totally different game.
depends on if they're ready to play. I'm actually not sure if they are, but it would certainly be nice to have them ready for the game, or at least to come off the bench. But
The only one who wasn't training with the squad today was Bondo, because we obviously bought him
yeah,
injured. I think they'll play. I don't think we have the luxury of not playing any of them right now. Maybe Joao Felix, just because I don't think he's been getting the time at Chelsea either. But if Kyle Walker came on and played a full 90 against Inter in his debut,
yeah.
I mean,
So.
the others probably will. But
If not, you play some of the players we have had for this game, and then you switch it up at the weekend. Obviously, it's a much easier game at the weekend, I think, Empoli. So maybe you're right. You should play the strongest players now. But at the same time, yeah, it's going to be a completely different game, like you said.
yeah,
I sort of hadn't clocked that Roma have been on a really good run lately.
they're doing well, and I think they made decent transfers as well this window. Do we think Golini's going to start? I know he came in towards the end of the window here.
I have no idea. Maybe.
And then the Luka Gorath Duoth, I probably butchered that. Gorna Duoth, a guy that we were linked with that a lot of people really wanted.
Several times. Yeah.
He went on loan to Roma on deadline day, and also Anas Salah Eddin, not the good Salah, but that's a good signing, I think, from FC20. So, I think they're still a solid team, but I think overall we're going to see a very similar lineup to what we played against prior. I don't know. What do you think?
To be honest, like you said, it's so difficult to predict. But I do think that with it being at home, with the enthusiasm of the Mercato, and Conceição finally seemingly getting through to the players, and we're starting to see his game more and more. Mm-hmm. I think this could be an opportunity to take a step further, basically, because at the end of the day, it's not just a league game. It's a win or lose situation. Like, you get knocked out or you go through. So, I'm just hoping to see some more, I guess, an improved mentality in the Coppa Italia, because it feels like in the last few seasons that okay, we got to do this. We got to play this game. If we win, we win. If we don't, then that's fine. That's what it's felt like to me many times.
Yeah.
And I just want to see that Conceição mentality in this game as well.
And I think one thing that he excels at is cup competition. We saw it with him at Porto for forever. We won the cup immediately with him. Or, I'm sorry, not the cup, the Super Cup. The Champions League, seeing his reaction to a defeat against Zagreb, which was by all accounts the worst performance of the season. That makes me really confident going into that knockout game against Feyenoord. And I think in this, he's going to treat it the same way. He wants to win as many trophies as he possibly can. This is for a trophy. This is to get to the semifinals of the Coppa Italia, something we haven't won maybe in my lifetime. When was the last time we won? Was it the 80s?
I think the last time was 2003 or something like that.
Oh, okay. So I was alive.
But it was a long time ago. Anyway.
It was a very long
unless
time ago.
I'm remember it wrong. But it was
years ago.
Yeah.
Let me just look.
But yeah, I fully agree with you. And I think Conceição's first title with Porto as well was the Super Cup. I could be wrong. But anyway, he seems to thrive in those situations. So, just hoping for a good game at the end of the day. I'm seeing some progress, like to build on the game we saw against Inter as well, not just to crash dive or immediately like we usually do after a good game. So I'm hoping that we see something good, and maybe even the new players. Jimenez, I know he's been training more than the other ones, of course. So maybe he has the opportunity to come off the bench, or maybe even start. Who knows? But
maybe we see both Jimenez's.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah. I mean, Jimenez did really well in the derby, like you said. I think he's so comfortable on the ball, and that for a player of his age, in that kind of pressure and environment, to come on and just like dribble like he does.
Yeah,
really impressive.
I think to use the hit terms, he's got that dog in him. He's always there. He's looking to scrap. He loves a fight, and he knows he's good at what he does. A really big fan of him. Just to go back to Copa Italia, the last victory was 2003. So you're right. Shout out Ollie's article on the website I just read. So yeah, we're good with that. And
Yes.
yeah, I don't know what's your prediction for this game.
2-1 for us, I'd say.
Yeah. I think we're gonna smash them. I think this is gonna be a coming out party for all the new signings, for Conceição, for everyone. I think Santi's gonna score a goal, and I'm even gonna go as far as to say Joao Felix scores a debut goal. I think he's gonna be big for us, a lot better than people are anticipating. It reminds me a lot of the Pulisic situation. Never quite found it at Chelsea. Same with Felix. Obviously, he also had spells elsewhere, but Barca is just as much of a mess club as Chelsea is, so I don't hold that against Joao Felix. His Atletico time could have been different, but he was always second fiddle to someone else. And I think this is the first time we're going to see him since he left Benfica at a place where he gets to truly shine and perform. And I think we're really going to like what we see here. So I'm going to go 3-0 for Milan with a Felix goal and maybe 1 or 2 Santi goals.
Hopefully. I mean, just to add on that as well, like it seems that they're starting on the bench. We're going to have Abraham. So you're going to be, hopefully they come on in the second half and make everything happen, basically. But yeah, it seems like we're going to have Abraham and, the usual with Musa and Fofana in midfield.
Musa,
the same,
with Reinders as the attacking mid.
Yeah, exactly. And the same back line as Inter, as you said. But yeah, I do think they're going to get some minutes. At least
they probably will. I think that we're going to eventually change to a 4-4-2. I know I floated that in the
it seems
chat.
to be the case, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be looking like he's going to build that. Okay, well, then there's that, and the final game to preview, Empoli, back in Serie A. I feel like we're flying through this podcast, but we are at 46 minutes, and
we have a lot to talk about still with the deadline day and everything.
Exactly. Empoli at the weekend, pretty straightforward. Haven't lost to them in a long time. I'm just scrolling back to see when we last lost to them, and it was April of 2017, a 2-1 loss at home. But the last game against them was a 3-0 win in November. That was Fonseca's penultimate game, I think.
You're putting me to the test here.
I am, yeah.
The thing is, like, these days I don't really remember games anymore. It's so strange. Maybe I'm getting old, but the one I'm thinking about is like when RLC scored, but that was not this season. That was last season.
Yeah, this one actually Morata scored, and brace.
Okay, yeah. Now maybe I know what you mean, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember, but it was definitely towards the end of Fonseca's career, as we know.
Yeah.
And then prior to that, we beat them 1-0, and then 3-0, 0-0. So we haven't actually conceded a goal to them since 2022, which was also in a 3-1 victory. So history tells us this should be an easy game. We're obviously going to drop points. I don't know what else to say on that. So,
I mean, they are struggling at the bottom, for sure. So, and they do have Colombo as well. I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
up front. So
that was something. In the head-to-head, they had like 4 players that were ex-Milan, I think. Let me pull it up. Colombo and Pellegrini strike partnership.
Oh yeah.
Hilarious.
As well.
Davis Vasquez is on loan there.
Yes.
Guglielmice is now gone, right? He went to Roma. Didn't he go to Roma yesterday?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
if he did, I missed out.
Let me just click on him and see, I guess. He did not. Okay, so he's still there.
He's been linked with us a few times,
yeah. Yeah, very interesting club right now. Where are they at in the table? Like
the bottom, the very bottom. But like it's like you said, this is a game we have to win. It's just like there's nothing else to say really, but it's home advantage. I think it's at home, right?
It is.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. It's
or it isn't.
Yeah, it is not. It's
away. We're all over the place. Yeah. Forgive us. It's a deadline day tiredness.
Deadline brain.
It's been crazy. I guess we should talk about that more maybe than Empoli. But I guess if we don't see the new signings starting tomorrow, we're definitely going to see one of them starting against Empoli.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
just to build on what you were saying there, this should be free points, but at the end of the day, this is a must win, like you said. They're in 16th playing us, but the team above them, Como, in 15th playing Juventus. So if Juventus beats them, that's 3 points that we need to make sure we don't lose to Juventus. And then the bottom two teams, Venezia and Monza, are playing Roma and Lazio respectively. So all 4 of us should be winning those games, which means nothing is going to change in the table. And if we're the only team who drops points, then it's a wrap. It's too far gone. Lazio is obviously in 4th right now, Juventus in 5th, Roma just behind us, barely in 9th. We don't want to drop any further down the table. So definitely we need to come away with a win, and I think that's exactly what we'll do. I'm not too concerned by this one. I think I'll go 2-0.
I'm gonna say 3-1.
I like it. That's fun. 3-1's a fun scoreline. All right, the moment everyone's been waiting for, huh?
Yeah, exactly. The one thing we're updated on, the deadline day and stuff.
Even that's a little risky. I mean, yesterday was so crazy.
It was insane.
Towards the end of the day in the chat, it finally just went to stop trying to keep up. Let's just wait for morning when everything's announced. It was ridiculous. But on the day, we had Joao Felix, Ricardo Sotil, Warren Bondo. I guess those were technically the only ones because Santi was there for the derby, but officially also deadline day deal. And those were just the ins. On the way out, Darius Stalmach, Kevin Zeroli, Benacer, Noah Okafor. Was Calabria technically deadline day?
I think it was 1 day before or 2 days before. I mean, it didn't take place on deadline day anyway, but it was absolutely insane. It's like I didn't even work yesterday, and I still felt tired. So I just feel for Ollie. Maybe that's why he's sick. He's been working too hard.
Genuinely could be, because I've been exhausted from trying to just keep up with my Twitter feed for the last 4 days.
I mean,
and I don't have to write anything.
Yeah, we had 2 guys on shift yesterday from 3:00 in the afternoon, and Ollie still managed to do 36 articles on the day, which is, I mean, a normal day is like 24, 25. So that tells you how much we had to write about. And obviously I do the financial breakdown as well on Substack. And I went into the day thinking like, oh, this is going to be quite nice. I'm going to be able to work ahead in advance and add the numbers and everything. And then, let me just put this in a Google sheet. And luckily I did, because then all hell broke loose. Like, he's arriving. These are the figures, like bunch of stuff to add to that sheet. So yeah, it was absolutely insane. Today it was like, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've never experienced anything like this during a January, especially not a January.
Few January transfer windows, we haven't done anything.
Yeah, 1 signing or 2 max, and max 4.5 million spent, which is a huge difference compared to spending 32 million for 1 player, Jimenez. So
it was so crazy that I was sending the announcement graphics to Dumi, our graphics guy, so he can make gold gifs and everything. And he just straight up told me, it's 1 a.m. I'm going to bed. All right, fair enough. I'm not going to keep you up. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
hopefully he got those done this morning, though, because like I said, goals tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I mean, obviously the big one, Santiago Jimenez.
Finally.
Yes, a saga that spans not just this month, not just this week, but all the way into last summer or
last summer, definitely, and a bit before as well. But last summer was when we showed concrete interest in him. So
he had given an interview and he said that we submitted a bid on deadline day in the summer. But Feyenoord weren't open to it. They couldn't get a replacement in. They actually did replace Santiago with another Mexican striker, ironically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw it this morning because of all the Santiago pictures I've liked on Instagram. Now the suggested posts are all like Mexican national team accounts, and thought it was really funny. All of a sudden I'm coming in and I'm just defending him after everything I've said over the past few years on this podcast. But yeah, I mean, look, this is a guy that I've actually rated highly for a while. And I've said a lot of negative things about the Mexican national team. As an American, that's my only rival nation team. So I've talked a lot of shit. And when you talk a lot of shit, the only way you could do it is if you do your research. And in that research of talking shit, the only thing I could never touch negatively was Santiago Jimenez. This guy is a gem. I cannot wait. He was a monster at Cruz Azul, and he was a killer at Feyenoord every single year. I mean, Feyenoord put a video last night as they're like, thank you. And it was watch all 64 of Santiago Jimenez's goals for Feyenoord. It's an 11-minute
Insane.
video. I mean, it's so long. And the fact that only 5 or 6 of them were penalties, and one of them was against Bayern in his ultimate or his final game. I mean, dude, the guy is so good. Yes, he found himself in a lot of situations that he's not going to find himself in Serie A, right? The Dutch league is a good league, but it's not a great league. It's not on the same quality as one of the top divisions like Serie A
Yeah.
or the Premier League or etc. But he still knows how to move. He's fast. He knows how to dribble. He's scrappy. He's not the type of guy that's just going to go down and look for the foul, throw his arms up.
No.
He's going to go down and claw his way back up with grass in his hands to get to that ball, and he's going to shoot it whether you try to kill him or not.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, he's putting the ball in the back of the net. I mean,
it's fantastic signing. Also for the price, like they said 40 million at the start, and we managed to get it down to 32 plus bonuses and a future resale clause, which is like fantastic for. I mean, mid-season as well. Our new number 9 mid-season, he's been in great form also. So it's like really a wonder from the agent in this case, who happens to be a Milan fan.
Agents.
If you didn't know.
I think you said Asians, and I was very confused.
No, the agent.
Agents. Yes. Okay.
But yeah, she's done a tremendous job from what I understand anyway. But it makes sense as well with the Champions League being at risk for us to just accelerate that interest in signing him now. It was the best thing to do, really.
Yeah, and we should also mention that, yes, he's obviously of Mexican origin, but he doesn't occupy a non-EU slot because he does have an Italian passport through, I believe, his mother's dad or something like that. His dad was born in Argentina, as was Santiago, but his dad played for Cruz Azul and all throughout Liga MX. And so that's his kind of background there. 65 goals in 105 games for Feyenoord. I don't even know how many assists, but very damn close to 1 goal involvement per game, which is insane when you've played over 100 games for a club.
Yeah.
Truly, truly one of the all-star grades. People are going to ask, why is he not doing so well for the national team? He's only got 4 goals in 32 games. The Mexican national team likes to play the older people. I don't know why. They played Chicharito forever, and then when he was out the door, they moved to Raul Jimenez, who is, I believe, mid to late 30s. He's playing for Fulham, obviously, in the Premier League, and I think they're valuing the Premier League over the Dutch league. I think that's foolish. I do not think Raul Jimenez is anywhere near as good as Santiago, and I think they'd be a lot bigger of a threat for the Gold Cup, for Nations League, for anything where they had to compete against the US in, if they played a guy like Santiago Jimenez. I don't think you're going to see any infighting between him and Christian Pulisic. Neither of them are those type of guys. They're going to be just fine. We've made a lot of jokes. I've made a ton of jokes. It's hilarious. I love it. At the end of the day, they're both hardcore Christians that are going to get along, that want the best for their team. And they're both nice guys off the pitch. So I don't think there's going to be any issue having them get along. You'll see.
National team football is also super different.
Totally different.
It's like a completely different game. It's the pressure as well, like you said, of playing for your country and not training with them every week. And, you need the coach to trust you, really, to succeed in that situation. And if you don't have that, then it's difficult.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what else we should say about Santi other than that'll be the next jersey I purchase. Debating so as you guys see there, I have the home jersey, but it's got my last name on it. This was a gift from my old boss, and I don't want my name on a jersey because I don't play. So I might buy that one again with Santiago's name on it, or I might get a heat gun, remove my name, take it to a local soccer shop, and just put Jimenez on there. I haven't decided yet, but that's the game plan for me. Who else do we want to talk about? I'll let you pick the next transfer here.
Joao Felix, maybe. Feels like the obvious one, maybe, but...
What are your thoughts on him?
To be honest, I obviously I remember him from when he like stood out when he was younger, or he's still young, but you know what I mean. His breakthrough, let's
Yeah.
say. But since then, I guess because he's moved around so much, it's been like you sort of forget about the player. Obviously, I saw him for the Portugal and stuff during the Euros, and
Mhm.
I guess he was solid, but nothing amazing. And it kind of worries me when a player goes on loan that much in such a short period of time. But the one thing I will say is like having Conceição as the manager and seemingly pushing for the arrival of Felix as well bodes well in a way. So obviously there's quality there because otherwise you wouldn't be. Yes, he has Mendes as his agent, so he could play for many big clubs,
Yeah.
even if it's not great. But like obviously you need to have some type of quality, right? And the fact that he's played for the national team a lot as well suggests that is the case. So
Yeah, I agree.
should be a good signing, but it's a difficult one really because it's quite expensive as well for just a 6-month loan.
Yeah, I wouldn't look too much into that. I think essentially they were saying get the deal done because it's deadline day,
Yeah,
and
no
then I'm
time
sure we'll
to.
negotiate. I never underestimate George Mendes and his ability to keep a player at a club or get him to a new club. I think that will change regardless. I'm sure we'll get him permanently, but maybe not. But you're right. A lot of loans in his career, loan to Chelsea, and then loan to Barcelona, and then sold to Chelsea, and then obviously loaned to us. I don't know. I mean, you look at his stats this season at Chelsea: 7 goals in 20 games. Not the best return, but a goal every other game, essentially, a little under. Not the worst for a guy that isn't getting full minutes. You look at those 20
Exactly,
games.
yeah.
I don't know how many of those were full 90s. I would argue very little. His time at
Most of them, I guess,
Barcelona,
are in Conference League as well, so
that's also
opponents
true.
could be a bit iffy, maybe. So
Yeah,
that's something to consider.
that's very, very good point. His time at Barcelona, not impressive. No way to cut it there. 44 games played, 10 goals scored. It's not the best, and he had a full season there, So, but you look at what has Barcelona been like over the last however many years since Messi left. I mean, since the
Yeah,
year
and
before
except
Messi
for
left,
this
they just
season,
don't have
really.
the money.
Yeah,
They're struggling to keep things afloat. They're another team who, just like Chelsea, almost feel obligated to spend 200 million every single window. And the only way you do that is by turnovers. So you sign
yep,
a player, and then 6 months later, you sell him again. And when you go to a team like Barcelona in the year 2025, obviously he did in the year 2023, but anytime after 2020, really, you're essentially saying, I don't care if my career ends today, because that's what you're doing. You're ruining your career. How many of them have, look at Frank Hesse, wins the Scudetto, one of the best players, one of the most beloved players on the team, nicknamed El Presidente, bucks off the Barca 6 months later, Saudi Arabia. Bye.
yeah,
I mean, you can't make it up. It's crazy. So I don't count that. And then you look at his first Chelsea stint, 4 goals, 20 games. That's not good. But that was also a Chelsea that was finishing 9th, 10th place, not a good team. So really you have his Benfica time and his first stint at Atletico Madrid to look at, and those weren't terrible. He could have scored more at Atletico, but he also, again, was playing behind multiple strikers, behind other wingers, never played in his position. I don't know who decided he was a left winger, obviously Diego Simeone, but he's not, and he never was. That's not what he was doing at Benfica. He was a striker and
yeah,
attacking midfielder, and then they threw him on the left. It was like when we signed Paqueta, who was only attacking midfielder, and we said, guess what? You're a winger now. And then he got sold because he was bad. So I think he has been underutilized and thrown around, and he's finally going to have some stability. He's around people who speak his language from his nation in Liao and Conceição. People he already knows in Christian Pulisic. There's a photo of them already smiling together in the morning jog. They're buddies. They've known each other. So I think you're going to get the best out of him here. I really do. I think this is a great move for him.
yeah. Hopefully, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Only issue is
Bondo, I guess,
obviously
is the
one,
one. Guess,
go ahead.
yeah. Bondo, I guess, is the next one to talk about. But
Warren Bondo's a good signing.
yeah, I think so too. We have obviously been linked with him for quite some time. We actually wanted to sign him before Monza, and I do remember it was quite strange that he went to Monza. But
Hmm.
either way, he's here now. He's young. He has a lower salary because of the tax relief, which still applies for him. And yeah, for 10 million plus bonuses, I think it's a really good signing.
Yeah,
You're
it
getting a
has a lot
lot
of
of player for that money and that age,
upside.
and once again the tax relief, which is great for future contract renewals and stuff. So yeah, a dynamic midfielder, which perhaps we have been missing for quite some
Yes.
time.
And obviously, with Benacer forcing his way out,
Yeah.
you need a replacement. Um, I guess we'll finish all these, and then I'll ask a question that just came up in my head. But Ricardo, was there more on Bondo you want to say or no?
No, just a
Okay.
good signing. Or a signing, like you said, that made sense because we needed a replacement on deadline day.
Yeah.
So you don't have that much to choose from. Like this is the best scenario, best case
Yeah.
scenario
Exactly.
out of all
And
the options.
I liked when he pulled into Casa Milan, and obviously the reporters had the cameras on him. He pulls in and he's on FaceTime with Galliani. Quickly hangs up, and you just barely get a glimpse of it, but there's a freeze frame of it, and it's awesome. You love seeing that.
Yeah.
And he's only 21, so he's young. He's got a lot of upside, very little downside. Obviously, nursing an injury right now, but I don't think it's serious. I think he'll be back pretty soon. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Ricardo Sotil on loan from Fiorentina. Don't hate it, don't love it. It's whatever. It's
Same.
another guy for the squad list, an Italian. We need it. Calabria left. Obviously, he's playing left wing, so he's going to cover that spot that Okafor just abandoned. That sounds negative to Okafor, but obviously he left. So, yeah, I think he could play a role. I mean, he's not a star. No one thinks he
No.
is. But he's still fairly young, mid-20s, 25, I believe, and could be entering the prime of his career. He could pop off and be that guy. But primarily, I think he's someone who's going to play left wing, could really help in the 4-4-2 as a left mid off the bench to relieve
Yep.
Leao if Leao plays second striker or something or just needs a break. So again, sensible signing, makes sense for the squad list. On loan,
Cheap as well.
I don't foresee him staying next season. Do you?
No, that's what I was gonna say. I don't think we're gonna keep him, but like to pay 1 million for the loan and then like what is essentially going to be 500,000 in salaries this season is a good deal.
Yeah.
And like you said, for the squad list especially, but like yeah, if we don't think that Carl Felix is going to play on the wing, then he's a good backup for Leao, or even on the right. I know he can play. So yeah, it's a classic deadline day signing, but it's also one, like I said in my Substack piece recently, that it just makes sense in a way. So yeah,
It definitely reminds me of like a Bonaventura type deal on deadline day, could
that
come really
was
good. Who knows?
one of our best signings ever. To be
And
honest.
then we've already talked about Kyle Walker at length, but I guess that is
Yeah,
the other guy in, so we don't really need to go too much in
yeah, a lot has
detail.
been said about him. So
Yeah. So the question that I had, and I'll preface this by painting the scene here, and I know we've already done an article on it, but it did leave one question in my mind that I've been thinking about all night. Kyle Walker replacing Calabria, Joao Felix coming in as a second striker, maybe an attacking midfielder. Santiago Jimenez replacing Morata, Bondo replacing Benacer, Sotil as a backup. Now, knowing that we can only add 3 new players to the Champions League squad, the ones that make the most sense, Santiago Jimenez is going to be the starting striker, obviously. Kyle
yeah,
Walker going to be the starting right back, obviously. Then you have, okay, we lost a center mid in Benacer. So is it Bondo? Is it someone else like Joao Felix who could be the attacking midfielder? Well, we know it's Felix that we've registered. So Santiago, Kyle, Joao registered. That leaves Sotil and Bondo not on the UCL squad list. But my question for you is, do they qualify for the B list? They're young, homegrown Italian, 21. I don't know if Bondo fits in that. 25 obviously for Sotil, but can all
yeah.
5 play in the Champions League this season?
So it's like Sotil does not. That won't be possible
Okay.
because essentially the list B is only for players that are under a certain age, 21, I believe it is. Like you said. So, but Bondo, I don't think he qualifies either. I actually haven't been able to find exactly how this works.
Okay.
Because it essentially you have to spend 3 seasons or 36 months in an Italian club between the age of 15 and 21. And he's 21 right now, and this is his 3rd season at Monza. So then it's a bit of a you essentially have to read up on the regulations even more if this season actually qualifies as a last 3rd season.
Because they probably wouldn't hit until the start.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Next year,
So and I tried to look for it actually, but I haven't seen any reports on it. So
okay,
it might be. Yeah, exactly. And I guess we're gonna explain it as well on the site if we get to the bottom of it, or we're gonna get to the bottom of it. But
it's something that worries me, because if he doesn't qualify, I feel like he would have made more sense to include than Joao Felix. Personally.
Yeah, to an extent. I guess who do you have instead? I guess it's Terracciano, which sounds horrendous when I say it out loud, but he's.
I'm gonna close my window 1 second. This light.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, just to continue for the listeners, Terracciano would be obviously a strange player to rely on. I was just saying that it would be strange to rely on Terracciano as being the sort of deputy for the midfield role. But I guess we do have Reinders, Fofana, and Musa as well. So then there's a case of, do you want to move someone down? Like TG has obviously been playing a lot like a 10 recently. So if you move him down and play Joao Felix as the 10, does it then make sense? We're not talking about that many games either.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps you can have some rest management in terms of that as well. So who knows?
The last question I have about the new signings is one that you and I have already discussed in the chat. Lorenzo seems to think we haven't, and he thinks he knows, but I promise you, buddy, you're wrong. Jersey number, Santiago Jimenez, taking the 7, obviously vacated by Morata. Now, Morata wore that in the Champions League. The Champions League had wording in their regulations as recently as 2018 that says 2 players cannot wear the same jersey number in the same season, even if one of them has left. That means he would need a different number. Now, Luka Jovic has not played in the Champions League this season. He's been left off every list. Milan News, I believe, was the one reporting it, said that there is a good chance Santiago wears the number 9 in the Champions League. This wouldn't be unprecedented for us. Adel Taarabt wore 23 in the league and then had to change it for the Champions League because Nocerino had it in the first half of the season that year. And it's happened with quite a few other players throughout history. Now, one thing that I found interesting, and I haven't seen anyone notice it so far, is the wording for this rule did change for the 24-25 season, and it leaves it a lot more ambiguous. Now it mentions you just can't have you can't have 2 players with the same number. That's all it says. It doesn't say in the same season if one's left. It just says 2 players with the same number, which leads me to believe that they've altered it to where he can keep the 7 throughout, and maybe some people are missing it. So I honestly don't know where it lies anymore, but I think it's an interesting talking point just to bring up.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, I think you need to unplug the mic and plug it back in again because it's doing that buzz thing.
Is it doing that? Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with that. There's been so much talk about the numbers and stuff that it feels like I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, there was a lot of confusion, let's put it that way.
Yes.
About the number on the night when they announced the number. So it's good that you actually read up on it because I wasn't sure when you said it at first if they can have the same number.
I thought I fell into another timeline because in my head, we as a chat have discussed it at length before.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is a thing. And everyone's like, I've never heard of this. Even Ollie said we never heard of it. And I was like, no, this has happened. We've seen it. We've talked about it. Because I remember when Kalulu left, everyone was like, why the hell did we give him the 5? Now we can't register it again. So I don't know. I'm still confused. But I do know Joao Felix took 79, which is a hideous number. I know he wore it at Benfica for a little bit, but I hate that. Horrible number.
It is what it is. At the mid-season, at the end of the day, it's going to be like that. But I'm just happy they're here. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
what we need.
I think everyone is an upgrade on the position.
Oh yeah.
I think everyone will play a part. And overall, if I have to rate this window, including the departures, which I guess I'll quickly read out. Stalmach, Zaroli, Benacer, Okafor, Calabria, Morata, Ballatore, Marco Pellegrino, Hugo Romero. I genuinely give this a 9 out of 10. I think a lot of it is because of the errors they made in the summer and correcting that. So overall, for the season, probably a 6. But I think isolating just winter, this is a 9 out of 10. I think they did everything right, even if it took them till the final day.
Yeah, 100%. And the main thing for me as well is like the financial side of things. Because they could have easily been like, oh, we're desperate. We're just going to spend 40 million on Jimenez. But they took some time and at least managed to get it down to 32. And then you have the deadline day signing of Joao Felix. Obviously, that wouldn't have happened like this any other day. So it's like, I think there are a lot of positives to take from it. And I guess above all, for most fans, it's the case, or it's the fact that we actually spent some money mid-season and actually decided to invest, which is the main thing, which is like what we need to focus on really. But yeah, the way they did it as well is pretty good, even if they left it late. And I'm not a huge fan of signing a bunch of players on deadline day and selling a bunch of players as well. But it had to be done. It was the revolution we waited for, and it was necessary as well.
We'll do a couple questions from the Discord here. I see you already answered one this morning at 5:00 in the Discord, but I'm going to read it again. This is from Dario Del Mastro. Dario Del Mastro. Besides the panic of missing out on top 4, do you think that there are any other reasons behind Milan being so comfortable with spending in January compared to last summer? Has something changed within the ranks of the ownership, or is it anything to do with finances being in better health? I mean, we're already talking about it, so I just figured I'd read that out.
Yeah.
But, you said you think 90% of it could be attributed to the UCL risk and the protests against Cardinale. I agree. I mean, that basically sums it up. I think they recognize how detrimental it would be to miss Champions League. I think they all are in the hot seat right now because you just can't fuck up, right? At a club this caliber, you can't be hitting misses every single time you swing. You've got to hit the ball. So I think they're really banking it. It reminds me a lot of when Juve were about to miss out on the Champions League for the first time in ages. And then they drop 85 million on Vlahovic in that January. It was make or break for them. That was them saying, we're not going to miss out on Champions League. And to their credit, they got in on the last day, I believe. I think it was Napoli they overtook in the final match. The season we won the Scudetto, or no, season before. It was when
I don't remember exactly, but
it was the season Inter won and we finished second, but like 20 points behind or whatever it was. But yeah, that was their moment of, okay, we can't let it slip anymore. And I think that's what we're doing right now. And also the fact that we're no longer under FFP regulation, or not regulation, we're under regulation, but under scrutiny.
Settlement agreement. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what it was. Yeah. I think that's going to give us a little bit more freedom, willingness to spend. But yeah, overall, I think it's the fear of missing out.
And the protesting as well. I think anyone who says that Cardinale isn't bothered by the protests I know that's what kind of has filtered from the ownership, but he cares. He cares. And especially when it's been this long as well, or going on for this long, even in games where, or even after wins, even when we are winning a game, you could hear the chanting against Cardinale. And I think that's sort of
telling. It says a lot.
Lighted a spark. But yeah, it is definitely mainly the Champions League risk, because that is just like detrimental on every level. So yeah, but it was necessary, so it's nice to see.
Yeah. We'll do one more question. This is from Shoals Force 1. How are we doing on the homegrown/Italian squad requirements with Calabria gone? How many from our youth team are going to need to keep with the senior squad? I don't have the answer to that. Do you know?
Well, the thing is, we don't need to have anyone from the academy, really. It's just that we won't be able to name as many players. So essentially, you have, I think it's 17 slots that are foreign players, and then the 8 that are homegrown, either academy or association, so from another club in Italy, and you can have 4 of each. So I guess the only remaining now is Gabbia in terms of academy players. Or I could be wrong. I could be missing someone. And then obviously we have Sportiello, Florenzi for the other side of that list. So it's just a case of, and Terracciano, of course. So not having Calabria anymore, it's not that we lose a slot per se. We just lose an Italian slot. And now obviously we've added Sotil as well. So I guess that's 4 association trained players, and that kind of makes up for Calabria. But it's always it's yeah, I think that's something that people get wrong. Like because we don't have an Italian, we're not going to be able to name as many players, which is technically true. But it's like you need an Italian instead. Essentially, we need to have academy players come up and play consistently for the first team, and actually be good as well, because that's only when they are useful in that side of the list, really. And obviously in Serie A, all players under the age of 22 are exempt from the rules. So essentially all of our academy players that have featured for the first team now are exempt anyway, so it doesn't matter. And obviously in the Champions League, you have the under 21, but you have to be have been a certain amount of years at the club or at the association. So that's pretty much the breakdown. But it's nothing disastrous, but it's not good either. But that's been the case for years, really.
Oh, perfect. I don't have anything to add to that. You cleaned it all up. And that was essentially it. The rest of the questions were about transfers, and we went at length. So I think we're good there. We could just wrap it up. We're an hour 20 in, so a bit of a longer episode. I know some people love that, some people hate it. But there was too much to talk about to avoid a long episode this time. So,
yeah, I guess you're going to be talking about some of the stuff in more detail in the bonus podcast later this week. So exactly. Be sure to sign up to Substack if you want to see more podcast content from the A team, the usual guys. Not from me. I'm not usually there, but
well, you do most of the writing for the Substack.
Oh yeah. I do the writing, of course, for Substack, but not the bonus podcast. But please check out the financial breakdown we've done as well. All the figures, the details, explanations of the deals we've done this Mercato, and essentially how it affects the club, the accounts, and comparing a little bit about how much we spent and how much we managed to get off the accounts as well. And just a fun little piece to try to predict the future and see how that's going to affect us down the line. You can try 7 days for free, of course, or you can sign up as a free member and unlock one of the posts completely for free. So it's a good time over there. And also the Discord server, of course, is popping off. So a lot of people seem to appreciate that, and it's a nice community to have as well. So yeah, sign up, try it out.
There you go. That you heard it from the man himself. So we'll see you guys next week. Obviously, bonus podcast later this week. Next week, fingers crossed, we have a semifinal berth and 3 points to discuss. And we'll catch you guys in a week's time.